Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Psycholegal Pop Podcast. I am Tess Brigham. I'm the therapist. My sister is not here with me right now, but she's the attorney. And we just wanted to share a preview of a true crime episode that we put out this week for our Patreon patrons. This is part of the $8 tier, and part of the $8 tier is you get the weekly bonuses that you've been hearing. If you've been listening to the other Patreon previews, you get those in addition to this monthly true crime and Ask Us Anything, which we're going to put out next week. And hope you enjoy. Thanks so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Patreon.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everyone. So today this is our monthly true crime exclusive for Patreon. And, you know, with everything going on in the world right now with Jeffrey Epstein, we thought this would be a good topic to cover for true crime. But we really want to focus on, and what we're going to focus on today is Ghislaine Maxwell, who is just as culpable as Epstein ever was. And so we watched the Netflix documentary Filthy Rich about her. So we are going to talk a bit about that, but we've also done some independent research and learned some things about her and her past. And once you learn about her past and her history, it all makes sense. Suddenly you're like, okay, I get it. Again, it's not an excuse, and people have choices along the way, but you can see how this happened.
Yeah, and how these two found each other, because they seem to perfectly complement each other.
Yes.
Epstein and Maxwell. And I mean, we can't talk about her without talking about him, but, and then we're also going to get into what's happening current day with all the stuff with Trump. I mean, this is wild.
It is.
It is absolutely wild. And, I wake up every day and I'm like, what is happening to our country? What is happening? But I don't know, maybe something good will come out of this horrible madness. Like maybe we were just talking about this, maybe this will finally get rid of Trump in some way, shape, or form. I don't know. The man seems to be indestructible, and you can't get rid of him. But anyway, it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yes, it is. Okay. Well, let's start with background and her history. Do you want to you want to dig into that?
Sure. Okay. So she came from a very wealthy family in the United Kingdom. Her father was Robert Maxwell, and he was like, a businessman. I imagine him sort of like a Trump type character.
Yeah.
But I think more successful in business. But
but a thief.
He was a thief.
Shady.
His downfall was that he basically spent all of the pensions for his workers, spent all the money. And, he was in the top social circles, and, so was she. She grew up, very privileged and went to Oxford, and they had a lot of money. But then once her father, did this thing with the pensions, I don't know if he maybe killed himself, because they had this boat, and the name of the boat was Ghislaine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That'll tell you something. And because she adored her father, and I think he adored her, although he was pretty cruel to his children. Like there were stories about how they would have to, at dinner time, they'd have to stand up and they'd have to tell, they basically had to justify their existence.
Yes. like what are you working on?
Yeah.
And what are you going to work on in the future?
Yeah. And if he didn't like their answer, he would beat them and then make them start over until,
and then make them write a letter to him, a letter of apology to him for, their laziness or their, they're not being good enough. Do you know because there were 8 kids. I didn't realize she had as many siblings as she does. So is Ghislaine the youngest?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure.
Because her siblings look a lot older.
Yeah, that's right. There was the one where she was just maybe like 5 or 6 years old and
Yes.
she was talking to her dad. There was a
Mm-hmm.
video. Yeah. I think so because they also had a scene in the movie where her brother and sister were at the trial
Mm-hmm.
and they came out and gave a statement and the sister looked a lot older.
Yes. At first I thought it was the mother. I'm like, is this their mother? But then I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, I think this is one of the sisters. So I do wonder if, so I think her being the baby would make a lot of sense because you get the sense that he really did adore her, the father.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe
No, he
gave her,
did.
maybe he was cruel always, but always gave her special treatment, which is
Well,
also another weird dynamic that happens with manipulative people.
yeah. Well, someone in the documentary who knew them, they interviewed a lot of family friends of the Maxwells, and somebody said that she and her father had more of like a seemed like a romantic relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the way that they treated each other. It was like she treated him like that was her husband or boyfriend or something. So they had a weird relationship, and I kind of wonder if there was some
Yes.
sexual component to it.
Yeah. And there was also, one of the things that I don't feel like is talked about enough, which is, some of the comments that Trump has made about Ivanka and how beautiful she is. And he made these comments many, many years ago. Like, I would be dating my daughter if she wasn't my daughter, and how hot she is and all of that. And I always thought that was really weird.
Yeah.
And so it always made me wonder about Trump too.
Yeah. I mean, maybe this is a thing. Like, this isn't as uncommon as we think.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, he went missing off of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And I wondered if that was a suicide because that was after he had been found out.
Yeah.
And I think they found his body.
They did find his body.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or it could have been foul play. I mean, there's a big
Yeah.
mystery around it because it sounds like he was doing a lot of shady stuff. I mean, I think that he was stealing the money from the pensioners. I don't think the pensioners killed him. I think someone very powerful, maybe he wronged the wrong person because as we've seen with so many of these documentaries and these personalities is that, these monsters are monsters in every way, shape, or form. It's not like they're, great in this place, this aspect of their life. And, yeah. And then awful in this one. I mean, it's just, so I think he was doing many, many shady things.
Yeah. Yeah. And these friends of hers described her as being, she liked to tell dirty jokes. She was kind of bawdy, but she was fun and told funny stories. And she was really into connecting people.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, like all these things about her just fit perfectly with Epstein. And so, after her father died, the family had no money and she was kind of lost without, having all this money. So she comes to New York.
Well, she also, their reputation was so terrible in England.
Right.
I think she had to flee.
Right.
And
yeah. And also the other thing too, was that the father was very cruel to the mother, and just kind of treated her like, she was nothing. And
well, yeah, he had this, he was very, very sexist, and that he really her father saw women as there for convenience or sex, which tells you a lot about, okay, so this is what's being modeled. What's being modeled to Ghislaine very early on is it's okay to take advantage of people and lie and cheat and steal for your own interests. And it's also, it's also okay to see women as sex objects and dismiss them.
Yeah.
And I think that personally, I think this is Ghislaine's big thing. Her whole life has been about, she has been trying to get her father to see her as a real person. And the way in which she's done this is to do this thing that she knows or feels like he would approve of, but it was never enough. And it wasn't, it wasn't enough for her father, and it wasn't enough for Epstein either.
Yeah. So she comes to New York and she, just becomes like this New York debutante, and she's, the fun, flirtatious party girl. And then her friends also say that she was not sensitive to the feelings of others.
No.
She had no boundaries. She encouraged girls at parties to sleep with men. She had they were describing some game where
Oh God, the party game
the
that she
party
had.
game where she would blindfold someone. And
no, she would blindfold. Her party game was she came down and she had all these scarves and she said, okay, we're going to blindfold all the men. Then all the women are going to take their tops off. And then the men are going to feel their breasts and see if they can figure out who's
identify them.
And so this woman's telling the story, this family friend, and she's mortified. And she's like, how do I get out of here? Like what in God's name? So it sounds like she hightailed it out of there, but yeah, I mean, basically you're saying to these women, you're going to be assaulted and you have no choice.
Right. I mean, I can't imagine, I don't know, maybe I'm naive. I can't imagine anyone, let alone a woman, like doing that. Like,
which makes me wonder about her childhood. Like, it really, I mean, all of the sexual stuff, all of this stuff, like what was going on?
Mm-hmm.
There had to be something more going on because kids, I just don't think kids, even like at an 8th grade birthday party, you wouldn't come up with that. What do you come up with? You go into a closet,
spin the bottle. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm going to kiss you. Kids don't come up with like blindfolds and then topless feeling around.
She was a young woman, but at that point.
Well, at that point, when she introduced the game, they said she was 29. But I'm just saying that it's just, it's your mind, how did
her mind go there?
Yes.
And that she thought she could just whip this out at a party and everyone would be okay with it. And
good times.
I mean, and obviously people went along with it, so what is it about the people going along with it? Is everyone just too scared to say this is crazy? I don't know. But so at one point she was out of money, and money was a really big thing for her, and so she basically just replaced her father with Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
I can't remember how they met. I
think they just kind of met in those circles.
That circle, yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
and she started dating him.
Yes.
And he liked her because he admired her old money ways.
Mm-hmm.
And he was new money, and he liked that. And she was extremely loyal to him. And obviously, I don't know how far into the relationship all this other stuff started, but they obviously were both okay with.
Mm-hmm.
They both had no boundaries. I mean,
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, my guess would be is I think he. They talked a lot about, right, how do you pick victims? And you always pick victims based on the most vulnerable. And I think that was the thing. I think Jeffrey Epstein sniffed her out, kind of sniffed her out. Like, I think these guys have such a radar, sniffed her out, knew she was right, and then started dating her, quote unquote. And I bet you anything, within 6 months, he was like, let's do threesomes. Let's do this. I mean, I think he was introducing this. And I think it was very much, and that's the whole question with her is she a victim? Is she a predator? Is she predator or prey? Because Jeffrey Epstein, really kind of held her too, which is, she needed his money. She needed his money, proximity to power, and she couldn't get out of this. But again, the difference is that these women that they were preying on were young girls whose family were going through like real hardships. I'm sorry, Ghislaine. I'm sorry your dad, you don't have no more family money. You could get a job. You went to Oxford. Get a job.
Exactly.
In the words of Vicky Gunnarsson, get a fucking job. Get a job. And work like the rest of us.
Go to work. I have to work. Yeah, they did, because it was almost like they played these games. Like this was part of their grooming thing, where there was this sales girl where they.
Oh God. That was so awful.
Picked up this sales girl in a fancy store and, ended up assaulting her. They groomed her and bought her things. And I mean, it was just, I don't know. I'm flabbergasted by these two.
Yeah.
I've spent the morning like
flabbergasted,
just reading all of this stuff and watching this. I'm just like, what is going on with this world?
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, we can get into this later, but that's why I think she is so fascinating is the whole time I'm like, is this biology? Is this nature?
Yeah.
Is this nurture? Is this because of this? Is it this? And I think that this is a perfect storm. I think we have these situations that are perfect storms where if maybe her father hadn't died, maybe if that had, you know what I mean? Maybe if she met a different kind of guy at a different point in her life, maybe she would have pivoted here. I think she would have always been a bit of a narcissistic, you know, socialite about herself. I don't think any of that would have been different, but I wonder if this stuff,
if she'd been born into, just a regular working class family, which actually Epstein was born into a working class family. His father was a gardener.
Mm-hmm.
And his mother worked, they lived in Brooklyn way back when Brooklyn was not hip. So yeah, I mean, they come from totally different backgrounds, but somehow they found each other and liked to do the same things. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. And like she was introduced, well, clearly early on, it was Epstein made it clear he likes quote unquote schoolgirls.
Mm-hmm. And he has to come 3 times a day. He's got a disease or some doctor signed off on this.
Right. He needs 3 massages a day. He called them massages. He needs 3 massages a day in order to live.
Yeah. 3 happy endings.
Yes.
He needs 3 happy endings a day.
Yeah.
Well, this is a very serious disease, people. We have to rally together to make sure the world
he gets
knows about these poor men.
Well, and
that are suffering.
Yeah, the parallels here. Okay, so Epstein somehow got a job at this, fancy prep school, the Dalton School, even though he had no college degree. He seemed to have a way of like getting into charming his way into situations with people who would give him an opportunity, and it just snowballed. He met a parent of someone at the Dalton School who worked at Bear Stearns, and he got him a job at Bear Stearns, and then he rose up into the, high echelons of that. And so he was let go from the Dalton School because of, poor performance, but also I think he was being inappropriate with the schoolgirls there. And then Ghislaine, cut to several years later, Ghislaine is introducing him to seniors at private schools on the Upper East Side.
Yeah.
Because she knows all these people. It's really, really gross. And, she wanted Jeffrey to marry her.
Yes.
She'd do whatever she thought she needed to do. She wanted the money. She wanted that security. She liked living that lifestyle.
Oh yeah,
they're off in their beautiful home on the private island. She's sitting out there. Life's just
skiing. They're skiing. He's got the house in New Mexico. I mean, yeah, it's a great life. Except every day you have to find 3 women.
Yes, she had to pick up 3 girls a day for these massages.
And this is like this is what addicts do every day. Get up. How do I get my fix? Next fix,
right.
And then get up the next day. And so that the other thought was, is Jeffrey Epstein it for you? Like, you move in these circles, you travel in these very posh circles. You certainly can't. I mean, this is the only man you can charm. There isn't some other billionaire that you could marry and get his money. That was the other part of it too, because I think that was it. I think that she saw that as love. I think that she sees her relationship with Epstein as love. I think that she liked the money and that's what kept her in it. But if it was just about money, she could have found someone else. That's why I think that this is the father stuff. I think that this is love. This is how love has been shown.
Yeah, she thinks she's taking care of him.
Yes.
Because she says to somebody that she can't meet all of his needs. She can't do it 3 times a day.
Yeah.
And so therefore she justifies, she says she's trolling for nothing trash girls.
Yes. That's how she saw them.
Yeah. And that's what they did. So in Palm Beach, so there's Palm Beach and there's West Palm Beach. And Palm Beach is where all the money is. And West Palm Beach is kind of trashy.
Yeah, because it's not it's west, so it's not on the water, I can imagine, right? You know, like that's the not so great part of town.
Right. Not the beachfront property.
Yes.
So she would go to these junior high schools over in West Palm Beach. And there was a girl who testified in the sex trafficking trial who basically she dropped out of school like in the 7th grade or something. Her mother was an alcoholic and an addict, and she had no money. And Ghislaine found her.
Hey, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed this clip. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is part of our $8 tier. So we have 2 tiers, a $5 tier and an $8 tier. For the $5 tier, you get all of our shows ad-free, a weekly bonus episode where we talk about various things that are happening in pop culture news. We usually take an angle. Brooke will talk about the legal part. I will talk about the mental health part. And then for our $8 tier, you get all of those things plus this monthly true crime that is only on Patreon, and another monthly Ask Us Anything where you can ask us legal questions, mental health questions, or other questions or things that you would like to hear our thoughts on. So if you enjoyed this, go check us out. Psych Legal Pop Podcast over on Patreon. Thanks so much. Bye.